Welcome back to Workplace Revamp. And this is a special welcome because it's our first episode of 2026. And we're starting the year with a conversation that feels pretty timely. Change is everywhere right now. New systems, new structures, new expectations. And yet, what I keep seeing is that leaders are still surprised that their teams can't handle change, right? So today's conversation is definitely one that I'm looking forward to. My guest understands this deeply. Carol Ornstein is the founder and CEO of Clear Path Methodology. She has spent more than 30 years leading and supporting change across financial services, technology, and consulting environments. She's known for bringing clarity to complexity and calm to moments that feel chaotic and high stakes. Carol,
Thank
welcome.
you so much. It's great to be here, Renee. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I love change. I worked in transformation when I was in financial services, so it's definitely near and dear to my heart. So I'm really excited to have you.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Change is my favorite passion in life to talk
Okay.
about, work with, help people. And the thing I find about, I was listening to your intro, I just loved it. The thing about change, it happens all the time. It could be big, it could be small, but we can't escape it. But yet
Right.
people struggle every single day. And that's my goal in life is to help people through that change, no matter what it is. And I'm very people first. So I'm all about the people aspect in helping them
Oh,
through.
good.
That's
That's
where I
great.
live. That's where I live. Yeah.
So, just to give you a little background on me and why change really resonates with me is when I was in financial services about, it's going to be 7 years now. I can't believe it. I had a big change. I was moved out of my position
Mm.
as a manager, and they wanted me to take over transformation. So,
Mm.
it was a really
Wow.
tough time for me because I really loved managing.
Mm.
And yet I was excited about doing transformation, but it was just a shock to me, right?
Sure.
I just got the phone call, we're changing your position. And I think
And you weren't asked. You were not
no,
asked. Yeah.
I wasn't asked. So, what do you do in situations like that? Or what do you think leaders could do differently?
Yeah. So I think in so many cases, leaders are being driven by the strategic objective. They're being driven by the head up above to say, do this, do this, do this. And they often react versus taking a step back. They're maybe even afraid to even challenge anything, or they don't feel empowered that they could even challenge something. But I feel like it's their job as a leader to take that step back, no matter what's happening. Don't just react. Actually, look at what is the impact going to be to my team? What is the impact going to be to all the work that they're doing today? If I pluck this person, Renee, out of her job today and put her into another job, what does that mean for Renee? Number one, that's me as a change leader. What does it
Okay.
mean to you as a person, right? That's where I live. That's what is so important to me. And I think we owe it to our people because our people are so loyal. They work day and night. They're very diligent. We have really good people for the most part. I mean, there are some bad apples, but we have
Right.
really good people. What can we do? Number one, instead of just saying, Renee, we're going from here to here. Renee, let's talk about it. We have this opportunity here. We'd really love you in this position, and this is why. Give you the context and then have a conversation. Don't just say, Renee, go over here, right?
Right.
Have a
Yeah.
conversation. You're a person, they're a person. Be people together and have that discussion. And I think that would really go far versus just plucking you in from one place to another.
That's so, yeah, that's great. And I agree with that. I think you need to tell. your team why the change is being done. And
Absolutely.
we always hear about with them. I was just on a
Yes,
call earlier. It's like, what's in it for them? If you
that's right.
tell them that.
Right.
So what do you think leaders can do in terms of, once they implement change and,
Mhm.
what's the best way to get people to embrace it?
Right. So I believe that change is infused from start past the finish of whatever that project or initiative is, big or small. Change needs to be infused from the beginning past the end. And it's really tied in with communication. So the with them, right? It's like
Yeah.
from the beginning, it's like we're going to have a kickoff. I'm working with a client now. Next week, we're having a big kickoff. It's like, what's in it for me? You talk about it. You don't just throw a deck on the screen and say, here's the project, here's what we're doing, goodbye. Like you actually make it tangible and you engage with these people. These people are the ones who are making it work. So why are you just going to give them mandates? Why don't you talk to them and make it worth your while, their while, and make it a collaborative effort? So I always am huge on communication, which is tied right to change, right? So what's in it for me? What are those expectations of that person? Often I see that role clarity is very confusing no matter what happens. It's just like I've had so many times throughout change where somebody will come up to me and say, I know I'm on this project, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do you want from me? Right? So you need to
Yeah.
be really clear on the role clarity and those expectations and get their buy in. Don't just say, go do this. Get their buy in. Say, do you have any questions? Like, this is what I need from you. You're so good at this. You're a subject matter in this. Help them, give them some kudos, right? Don't just treat them like a number one, two, three, right? They are a person, they have a background, they have a history, they have families, they have a life, they have a whole world inside of them. Treat them holistically, right? I don't mean like holistically spiritually. I just mean holistically the whole person, right? and
Uh,
and carry them along throughout the way, and as a leader, you are a supporter, you are their cheerleader, you are their advocate, you're going to go to bat for them, right? You're not just going to leave them out to dry. So change goes from start through the finish, and that communication happens the whole way through, and there should be no surprises. And you know what, as a leader, I think it's a really important thing also, when you don't know something, say you don't know it. So many times people are afraid to say that they don't know something, but it's really important to say, I don't know that now, but I'm going to go find that answer out, or I'm going to work on that. And when I know that, I'm going to come back to you.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. And it's a shame you don't see that more in the
Right.
workplace, right?
Right. So
But I
much.
loved how you spoke about role clarity, and that's something that I saw a lot in corporate. It wasn't just on change, but it
Yes.
was like everyday processes, and it seemed, sometimes lines were blurred. And it was
Hmm.
like, oh, that's not my job. Oh,
Right.
not my job. And
Right.
then nobody wants to do it. How do you get that
Right.
clarity?
So what I do always at the start is I build out, here's my team. Here is their role. And I don't mean their title in their job at the company. I don't mean like VP. I don't mean like business analyst. I mean, what is your particular role on this project? And then we talk about what does that role mean? And I usually create a description of that role for that particular project. And then we walk it through, and we walk it through as a team, not just individually. Because when I'm talking to Bobby and Susie's there, Susie might go, "Oh, now I understand what Bobby's doing." Susie but back and forth. So it becomes a very collaborative effort. Not only do they understand their role clarity, they're signing up for it. We're very much in it together, but they're also talking amongst themselves. So we're organically building that collaboration across the team. And I believe that that's the role of the leader, is to make it very clear. I've seen so many times where leaders say, "Oh, we're going to have to kick off this big project and we have 20 people. Let's just have them all go through the whole kickoff week, the whole way through, and we're just going to have them all blur together and not really know what their clarity is." Now, that's okay if you want them to immerse themselves in what they're building, But if they're sitting there and they're on a call or they're in a room and they're not really sure of their role, they're not going to be as engaged because they're not going to know where they plug in.
Got it. Yeah, that's so important. As soon as you're told you're going to be in this project, it would be
Right.
good to know what role you're going to play.
Absolutely.
So, a lot of organizations aren't very good at the change management plans. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between change leadership and
Yes.
change management?
Yes, I sure can. And that's one of my favorite topics. Thanks for bringing that up. So
Sure.
they go hand in hand. This is me. Everybody can have their own opinion, but this is how I think. Change management goes hand in hand with change leadership. Change management is, to me, the person who's managing the day-to-day efforts. It could often be tied to that program manager or project manager. They could also wear a change hat. You don't necessarily have to have a separate person doing change. It really depends on the company. It depends on how big the initiative is or the project. But I believe that a project manager or a program manager for sure should be able to wear a change hat. And that is to not make it a separate component altogether from the initiative that's happening. But like I said before, it's infused throughout the entire effort. And so they are managing the change components all the way through. So they would have within their project plan, for example, they would have a change component to every section to say, okay, for configuration of this effort, what are the changes that are going to be happening? We have current state, we have future state, for example. What is going to change in these people's day-to-day lives in the future state? And they will be helpful to communicate. That's the role of a change manager, is to communicate those changes. Now, a change leader is the person who is that raw person who understands the strategic goals and initiatives, who is dealing with the leaders at the very top, the executives at the top. So they're managing up at the top, they're managing down below, they're managing sideways. They are the leaders who are getting it done for the people above, the people below, and everything in between. And their job is to support, not just to lead. They're not the brouhaha at the top. A leader to me is a cheerleader, it's an advocate, it's a champion, it's a supporter. It's making sure everybody's supported to get the job done.
Awesome. I love that. And what would you say? Would you have change leaders across teams? So if you have multiple teams involved,
Not
it's
necessarily.
just
I think
one.
that that might be a little bit, to me, again, this is just me. Again, it depends on how big it is. So you could have a committee of people who are maybe stakeholders, and they are also change advocates. So it really depends how big it is. So you could have, the head of tech, the head of business, the head of ops, the head of I don't know, all kinds of things in finance, the head of trading, the head of broker, whatever it is, right? You could have all
Yeah.
these different people. They are champions of sorts and they do represent, but I believe that they're more stakeholders. I see the sponsor. There you go. I see it. Thank you for
Okay.
bringing that
A
out of
business
me.
sponsor.
You did that. You get the credit. I believe that the sponsor of that initiative is that change champion, that change leader at the top. And then that makes it clean because that's their that's their baby the whole way through, right? That they're responsible and accountable for that.
Got it.
Do you have a different opinion on that? I'm just curious.
No, I mean, it worked so differently
Yeah.
at my previous organization where it wasn't always clear, to be
Sure.
honest. Like we
Sure.
did have a business sponsor. But what would happen is, so I was in client service. We had sales, operations, and sometimes the three teams weren't aligned on the change,
Yes. Oh,
right?
yes.
So client service would hear, okay, we're rolling out this new tech and we have to use it, clients have to use it, but our sales team wasn't told that
Right.
they had to use it. And
Right.
needed sales because sales talk to the clients a lot.
Yes.
If the client said, oh, we don't want to use it, sales
Yeah.
would say, okay, don't worry about it. And then the client service team would get kind of the brunt of it because they were being told, oh no, it's mandatory.
Mm. Yes.
So,
Yes.
how do you deal with that when it's
Yeah.
not?
That is so painful. I feel your pain very much so, Renee. I've been through that. I had a similar situation at a client where they swore they wanted firm-wide initiative change across the enterprise, and they were ready and they wanted it. Well, when I got the people that were at the head, the main change people, the main people were business, technology, and ops. And the business and ops were completely on board together, hand in hand.
No.
Tech, no thank you, ma'am. I'm out. I am not going to be part of this. In fact, please don't invite me to any more meetings. And that's how that started. And
Boy.
so I feel that pain very much so. So I would say that at the very beginning, you have to get them all signed on because otherwise it won't work. It's like a three-legged stool. If you're missing that third leg, it's not going to work. And in my case, I was absolutely stalled, and it was towards the very beginning, which was actually kind of good to know right at the beginning versus getting knee deep. And so when that happened, I went back to the sponsor, right? I had a sponsor and I said, we've
Okay.
got to rectify this. If this person is saying no, we need another person in tech. If it's not that person, I need another person. So I need another advocate in tech. And so we got another person who signed on in that case. But
Okay.
it has to be all together. Now the thing is, they don't all have to agree on every single thing, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Nor
Yeah.
should they, because actually it's interesting when they do not, because they bring different versions of what they're seeing to the table that other versions might not have gotten in there that way. So it's important to have all the voices, but it is important to have all the voices. Like I say,
Yeah.
they can represent differently, but we need to have them all at the table. And that's through the sponsor. Sponsor needs to make that happen,
Okay.
in
Got
my
it.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. And I think when I hear a lot about transformations fail and what
Yeah.
what are the failures and how do you do things differently. So one of the things too is staying present after the announcement.
Mhm.
In some organizations, you'll get an email. We're now going to, this is a big one for a lot of people lately, is we're now doing 5 days a week back in the office. And
Yes.
a lot of times it's just via email and people are unhappy. So as leaders, when you have to deliver those kinds of messages, what's
Yeah.
the best way to handle?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you're asking this one too. So it's so interesting. I see surveys a lot. I'm not a fan of surveys personally.
Okay.
Sometimes I see why they'll work, but in often cases I will see at that level where they're going to roll something out. They say 5 days a week, we're going to do it. Bam, we're in. Sometimes they'll send out a survey like a month later. How's it going? Anonymous or whatever. People don't care about surveys. They're very impersonal. And what I believe in is the face to face or the discussion's a discussion because it makes it real when you're talking to a person. You're getting the context. You're sitting down, you're saying, how's it working? Right? How's it going for you? And not just to, put them on the spot, but just to actually have a conversation. Sometimes, depending on what's going on, if I have a person who's really been hesitant the whole way through, I'll take them out for coffee or I'll take them out to lunch if we're local and we can do that. And I make it like less about like the business aspect and the company. And I just want to know about them. Sometimes I won't even start off with like, how's it working? How's it going? Or is it
Yeah.
working? What's going on? I'll just say, how's it going with your family? How's it going with you have this side thing that they love to do. Maybe they like to fly drones. I know somebody who loves to fly drones. So I'll just talk to them, but genuinely, I'm not just doing that because I'm trying to get something out of them. It's a connection point, right? And when
Right.
I'm a human being talking to a human being, it takes the, it diffuses the company. They said I have to come back 5 days a week. It's
Yeah.
like more about them first. And then we get into, and how's it going with the work stuff? What can you tell me about that? What's working? What's not working? How can I help you maybe? Like, let's talk about what's not working. So I continue to have the discussions and It's not a one and done when we go live. It's after the fact. We continue to have discussions. We continue to maybe bring the team together and have discussions as a team. There are ways to do it, and I tend to not bring the bigwigs into those meetings because they will shut up. They will not
Oh,
talk.
yeah. Yeah.
So I try and make it personal. Maybe we'll have a lunch, like a group lunch, and we'll just like talk about, make that a lessons learned, couch it with a lunch, and we just talk about it that way. So there are various ways to do it and to get creative, and you really have to read the audience. You have to understand who you're talking to, and I believe you can do it collectively, and I believe you could do it one-offs as well with the people that need a little extra.
That's great. I love that. What about when you don't have the answers? And how do you keep the trust of
Mm.
people that you're communicating to?
You know what? I believe that when you don't have the answers, you're actually building more trust. And people will say that's very contradictory, but no. When I have seen leaders say things that they are expounding on things and you can tell they don't know. They're just making it up or
Yeah.
they're saying fluff, right? It's very obvious if somebody says, "But what about? What about?" and they come back with, "Well, we're working on that and we've got a plan for that and yeah, we'll be talking about that." It's like
Yeah.
there's no connection point, there's no trust there because it almost shuts it down because people are smart, obviously, right? So
Yeah.
what I do is I believe in transparency. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. If you have questions and I don't have the answers, I'm going to tell you, gosh, I don't know yet, like I mentioned at the beginning. I'm going to go try and find that out. Maybe I'll find it out pretty quickly by walking down the hall and asking somebody. Maybe nobody has the answer yet, but guess what? I'm going to keep my finger on the pulse on that, and I'm not going to let that go. And I'm going to keep bringing it up periodically with the leaders above, and I'm going to keep bringing it back to you to tell you, here's where we are. It might be the same status, but guess what? We're communicating, and communication builds trust every day of the week.
Perfect. That's right. Communication. What happens when your project doesn't go as planned? And I think I talked a little bit about the communications alignment, and we had an issue where adoption didn't go as planned
Mhm.
because we couldn't get our clients to adopt. But
Yeah.
I think part of it was because we weren't aligned, right? We
Yeah.
weren't aligned on the messaging. But I think what happened is when it didn't work, when it didn't go as planned, the blame game started.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
how can leaders get around that
Mhm.
rather than blaming other teams or,
Yeah.
the clients or
Yep.
what's the best way to go about
Yeah. So when that happens, and it's so tricky and it happens all the time and it's very painful. What I like to do is I like to bring people together and I like to remind them this isn't about a person or people. This is about what the effort is we were trying to get to. What was the goal? What was the end goal? What was the purpose? I bring them back to reminding them what was the purpose of this project? Okay, here's where we are. We didn't achieve that goal. Let's talk about why and let's diffuse that. And I start off always as a leader, this is the mistake I made, and this is what I learned. Because then that gives them permission to also say what they learned, not necessarily even mistakes, but like I make it about myself first and say, you know what? I could have done a better job here. I could have led you better here. I could have talked to this person sooner. I could, whatever it is, I take accountability and that makes everybody feel, oh, like they take a breath. It's like, oh boy, now I can do that too, right? And I learned that from a really good leader once. She walked into a room and did that, and it changed everything. So now I do it because she
Oh,
did it.
that's
And she gave
great.
me permission a long time ago, and now I do it today, right? Because it works and people feel better. So I try and make it about the project, not about blaming anybody. I bring it back to what were we trying to do? Where are we now? And how can we maybe right size this? Let's talk about what didn't work. Now, out of what didn't work, let's prioritize what we need to get changed to make it happen so that we can get it on course again. And we don't like we might have a laundry list, but we prioritize that. So we do it in bite-sized chunks. And then we do it, we kind of work it through that way. And so we make it about the project and the objectives and not about the blame game and the people who did or didn't do something.
Wow, that sounds great. I wish I knew you a few years ago.
I wish I knew you too.
Oh, so what about a playbook? Do you manage most of your changes with a detailed playbook? How do you go about that?
That's so good. I love your questions. I am I'm like a school marm. People will say, oh, I'm not really rigid, but I like rules and I like structure more than anything. I like structure. However, I have built many, 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 many playbooks, as I'm sure you have too. And playbooks go out the window when people either A, don't use them, or B, don't keep them current, right?
Mhm, yeah,
So I always like to start with a framework. We can call it a playbook, but I believe every project has a similar core framework, and then you can customize it based on that particular project or initiative. I tend not to get totally detailed and granular with a playbook because out of the framework of a playbook comes standard operating procedures, which are very detailed, and that can be, project in itself, right? But that
that's
has to be kept current. I try not to build the playbook too rigid because then people won't use it. But what I do is I build it more like guidelines, right? And then in the training aspect comes how they use the new system or the updated system or the updated procedures or whatever that is. But I keep the framework clean and tangible, right? And then I always assign somebody, usually it'll be a project manager or somebody like that. Maybe it's a business analyst even. It just depends on who we have on the project. You can be flexible, right? You might have a lean and mean team, but somebody's responsible for keeping that current. And I always give best practices like make sure you have it on your calendar once a month, go update that. Like make it happen. Otherwise, not going to happen. And then the usage of it, we can have fun games. Like we can like make sure like, hey, get together with the team and say, hey, let's make tee up one person to say how they used it. Like make it conversational versus just like, oh, we've got to use it. Make it real.
yeah.
How about you? What do you think of a playbook?
Yeah, I mean, I think a playbook, I love that. I've tried to do it many times when I was in corporate. I think the biggest issue was keeping it updated. You
Yeah.
almost need that one person. Like a few times I would have interns or an analyst
Yes.
and they would help me with that. They'd go
Yes.
up to each person and say, give me your updates. That
Yes.
was kind of the best way. If
I
you
think that's good.
that person,
Yes.
but I love that because I know I worked for a boss who wanted status updates all the time.
Yes.
I didn't give it to her. She would email me constantly.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'm creating this book, playbook,
Yes.
and you're going to get an update every Friday.
Right.
But again, it was hard to keep updated. That I think that was my biggest issue. But
Yeah.
I like it. I like it because I think that's where you can keep, all the names,
Yes.
your business sponsor,
Yep.
all the players, roles and responsibilities.
Yes.
We used Racy. I don't know if
Yes,
you
I
use
love
that.
Racy.
I love
Absolutely. I think
that.
I'm a big believer in Racy, even to this day. I mean, I started a million years ago using a Racy. Racy's still current. Racy is a
Yeah,
great communication tool for people to use. I totally agree with you.
it really is. And then you can go back to it when you have those,
Yes.
one-offs like, oh, that's not my job. And let me
Right.
pull that Racy out.
Exactly. I fully, fully agree. Um, and you can also slip in your project charter information into that playbook at a higher level, but
Um,
just to kind of remind everybody all in one, like this is why we're doing it. This is the objectives. Here are the key performance metrics that we've called out. These are the deliverables we were going for.
yeah.
Like it's nice to kind of build it in. And I do want to give a shout out to standard operating procedures
Yeah.
while the school marm is talking here. Uh, um, I'm a huge believer in SOPs because anybody new that's coming into the organization, it does multiple things. Number one, I see so many companies where they have one person who's doing so many things because number one, they don't have time to train somebody. Number two, it's easier just to do it themselves. But then when they scale, it's impossible. So when you have new people coming in, it's wonderful to have those procedures sitting there. And when you build them, it's great to cross train and have somebody who didn't build them test them out because that'll like
Yeah.
bulletproof them. So, and you have to keep them current, which is also hard, but yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
If you have that person, I'm telling you,
I know.
organizations, the best thing I had was an analyst.
Yes,
I worked
yes,
side by side with them
yes,
and they learned. They were like a sponge, but
absolutely.
amazing. But I know we're coming up on time, but
Yeah,
can you give advice to organizations? Maybe they're going to be implementing a new project soon or a change in their organization. What's the advice you can give to them before they
sure.
begin or implement?
Thanks for asking. I have a couple of things that come immediately to mind. Number one, when that comes, usually it's a mandate from the top saying we have to implement a new CRM now, for example, right? Before jumping, have the leaders who are all going to be impacted in their various groups get together and figure out, like I've built like a simple like Excel to show like group by group who's going to be impacted and how. Not people, but groups, right? And
Right.
then how are they going to be impacted? And have a plan at the top for that impact plan first before you just jump in. Figure out what's going to happen. Do we have agreements with vendors where we're going to be like dinged if we don't, get off of that platform and go onto this, or what's going to happen? How's the integration going to work? There are all these different things to ask. Then, once you
Mm,
figure out the impact plan, then layer in the people component within your groups. How are the people going to be impacted? They have day to day business as usual jobs. They have other projects, other initiatives. What is the priority? How are we going to use our people properly? And how are we not going to kill them? How are we going to retain them? And how are we going to make their lives happy at their job as much as we can, not just to give them drudgery? So I'd say first figure out the impact at the high level, then layer in the people component, and then you have a nice plan to go forward with.
that's great. I love that people component, and I think that's what's missing in a
Yeah.
lot of these plans. So
Yes.
thank you, Carol, for being
Thank
with
you.
us. This was great.
Leave no people behind. That's my rule.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. Awesome. And how can people get in touch with you if they want
Oh,
to learn more about
thank you. Yeah,
you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm on there every day and I post a lot of my thoughts on LinkedIn, a lot about change leadership, a lot about
Okay.
project management. So they can find me on LinkedIn. I also have clearpathmethodology.com. That's my website. So feel
Okay.
free to go there. And I have a Substack that I just started. So I'm just playing around with how that's going to
Oh,
work and
very
figure
nice.
that out, branching out. So
Oh, well, I love listening to you, Carol. You
thank
have
you.
an amazing
Likewise. Thank you.
company. It sounds really great and looking forward to hearing more. And to our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, share it with a leader who's navigating change right now. And until next time, this is Workplace Revamp. Thank you.
Thank you.